It's a beautiful day in Wyoming. Welcome to the Crazy Moose, where the projects never end and where you are the most important person here. Because without you, it's just not as much fun and it's not nearly as interesting. And if I can't bring you here to the country, I'll try to bring the country to you. As usual, my biggest obstacle is me, myself. Procrastination, motivation. Little hill, big hill. This is my fence cheater. A lot of firewood. I get way more winded on some of these small climbs than I really should. And I'd love to tell you that it's because I'm old, or it's cold outside, or I'm at a high elevation. I'd love to come up with those excuses, but the truth of the matter is, it's because I don't do it regularly. How do I know? Because I used to, and I know the difference. I imagine somebody's going to ask, like, if you can't be motivated to go out for a hike or a walk out in the country like that, what do you need? That's a good question. I ask myself all the time. It should be enough motivation, just the environment, right? But some things psychologically, mentally defy logic, you know? Sometimes we know that we should do something or we shouldn't do something. And there's a lot of wonderful logical reasons why we should or shouldn't, and yet we still don't, you know? For me, right now, that's what I'm dealing with. The other day, I was carrying a 5-gallon jug of water. And if I remember correctly, a gallon is roughly 8 pounds, I think. So maybe 40 pounds, 5 gallons thereabouts. And it occurred to me that's the amount I am overweight. So, that was a pretty good perspective, thinking I'm walking around carrying an unnecessary 40 pounds, like 5 gallons of water around with me everywhere I go. My diet is still pretty good for the most part, but just sitting around eating avocado and eggs is not going to solve my problem by itself. There she is. So pretty much straight up from here. So this hill may not look terribly impressive in the video, but I guarantee you it gets my heart rate elevated. The vegetation is just starting to bud now. In another month, this place will look really wild. Crazy flowers, wildflowers, and colors all over the place. I'm hoping to do a video on wildflowers. They are really spectacular. I definitely do get too winded on a small hike like this, but that's what I get for walking around with a 5-gallon jug of water unnecessarily every day and not being disciplined about exercising. But I will say this, it is better than it was even a year ago. So there is improvement. It's encouraging. That feeling when you've made it to your goal. And then you find out you're not quite there yet, but almost. And then the feeling again, where you've reached your goal. I sure made a major production out of a little 500-foot hill, didn't I? So what are your thoughts on setting goals and achieving goals? How do you feel on those days where you set a goal but you don't achieve it? You don't do it. Versus the other days where you set your goal and you actually do achieve it. Regardless of what the subject matter is, on those times where I know I should do something, I really intend to do it, but I don't do it, I end up feeling kind of down about it, pretty discouraged and just kind of low. But then days like this where I actually achieve my goal, I usually come to a similar conclusion almost every time, which is, you know, it really wasn't as big a deal as I made it out to be, you know. There was a story a guy told me some years ago. He had 3 daughters, no sons. And he said his daughters' rooms were always a terrible mess. And he used to fight with them about cleaning up their bedrooms. And he said, his daughters would give him a really hard time about it because it just seemed like such a huge undertaking for them. It was going to take so long and be so hard and whatever. So he told his daughters, just get started on it. Spend 5 minutes on it, just at least get started, and then see how it goes. And he said every time his daughters were amazed that once they got started, it really didn't take nearly as long as they thought it would, and it wasn't as hard as they thought it would be. But he also told me it wasn't a one-time conversation either, that it happened a few times before it sunk in. I still remember that story many, many years later, and I have referred to it many times as well, realizing that too many times I have myself made a situation out to be much larger and insurmountable than it really is. And I too come to the realization that all I have to do is really just get started. And once I do, it's usually not as bad as I thought it would be. And much like this guy and his daughters, it wasn't a one-time conversation with myself either. That's another great example of just how we can help each other with simply sharing our experiences with each other. I wear bells to let the animals in the area know that I'm coming. Not long ago, I was cutting through here on a mountain bike, kind of an average speed, and I came up on a moose that was right behind these bushes. That case, I was actually wearing my bells and he heard me coming in advance, so it was no issue, but definitely not a good idea to come ripping up and surprising a moose at 20, 30 miles an hour. So how is your routine going? What are you currently doing for diet and exercise ideas? What are you doing for goals, and how are you doing in that area? I am always interested in hearing your ideas, your thoughts, your suggestions, your advice. Sometimes somebody comes up with an idea that I just hadn't thought of, or it's inspiring to me and something that I want to give, I want to try. Over or under? Over. Over or under? Over. Bottom line is, it really is nice to get up off my butt, get out, take a nice walk. I almost always feel better mentally and physically, and it's encouraging for the next time. Please do share your thoughts, your experiences. I really do look forward to hearing from you. You really do make a difference. It is a fact that as nice as it is here, you really do make it more fun and you really do make it more interesting. Sharing it with somebody really is nice. Until next time.